So Halloween is by far my absolute most favorite holiday, so I really like to go over the top for my planning and for my costumes. And so for this year, I wanted to challenge myself to make something that was different than what I normally do. So I normally love to make very glamorous things, but then I had the idea of a look that is both glamorous and very, very silly. And that is Poppy at the, I believe, 2024 Emmys dressed as a goblin. So this look will give me a chance to be very glamorous, but also be very, very silly. And I do want to warn y'all, I did start making this costume last year and I didn't finish it. So there are a couple of clips at the beginning of the video where the audio is not great. It's not perfect, but bear with me. It does get better about halfway through the video, but enjoy my interpretation of Poppy's Emmys look. If you don't know who Poppy is, Poppy was one of the contestants on Drag Race season 15, and that whole crew got to go to the Emmys that year, and for the red carpet, she wore a full head-to-toe goblin look, and so I am going to attempt to make that makeup and all. So I have 10 yards of swamp green fabric, so let's try and make this thing. First things first, I need to make my pattern, so I started by tracing out a pattern block that I have made from my own body measurements, and then because this is sort of like a mullet style dress where it's short in the front and then long in the back, I started sloping down the sides of the skirt to kind of feed into the train. Okay, so I know I just showed y'all the front pattern piece, but I actually just looked at the picture again, and so it slopes down, and I was thinking that it could be a gentle slope on the front and then the back pieces would be the ones that get like the most volume, but then I looked at the picture again and it actually is like a pretty steep drop off on the side seam. Like the side seam's already on the floor. So I'm gonna add more length. I just had extended that 6 inches and was gonna kind of feed that into the back pieces, but let me show y'all. Okay, so you see how this drops pretty quick. So this would be the side seam kind of right in this area right here, and it's already on the floor. So I'm gonna have to add an extension to this paper because it's not long enough, but that's what I'm doing, and I'll show y'all the new pattern after I fix it. Okay, this looks like a little bit of a garbage hot mess, but let me explain what's going on here. So this is the front of the front piece. So that will be the center of the front. This will be our, like this, not the side seam, but separating the front two panels to make two pieces. This is the curve. This was my original line that I drew to drop this down 6 inches, but now we're doing this all the way down to the floor, which that will be down to the floor. And then I wanted to go ahead and give this some slope. So I started from that 6 inch mark, gave us 5 inches here extra, drew that up, rounded that corner. So now what I'll cut out will be this piece all the way down here, cut across here, all the way up, and that will be, this will be the side seam going forward. So that's where we're at. To make the back pieces, I took my pattern block and traced it again and then split it into 2 pieces to give me an extra back seam. And then I want these pieces to have a very long train going off the bottom. So I laid those onto pieces of paper, traced out the length that I needed, extended the sides to give me a nice flare, and then I rounded all the edges together with my tailoring curve. Okay, so after a good bit of measurement and math, this is what we've got. So that right there will be the front piece. This will be the front side. So you see it'll be short here and then immediately drops down. And then this is the back side. Oh, there's the train. And then the very back piece. So I'm gonna make a muslin just to see how this looks. And then I'll alter the muslin to be exactly what I need. And then that will be the actual pattern pieces that I use. Now that the pattern pieces are finished, I quickly threw together just a very basic muslin with just plain cotton that I had on hand. This is nothing fancy, just simple straight stitches. You don't need to even finish any of the edges. Once the muslin's put together, I then went through and pinned any spots that need to come in and made appropriate marks so I knew how to edit the pattern later. Okay, y'all. So, I stopped working on this costume because I was working on another really ambitious costume at the same time, and I was just getting really overwhelmed, so I stopped. So now it's the next year, and we're going to pick this up where we left off. So, the nice thing is that I'm pretty sure that the pattern is 99% done. There's a couple of marks that I had already made to change it. So I'm going to finalize the pattern. I think we're pretty much there. And then I can start actually making it. So I have my fabric. I definitely want to make a corseted layer underneath, just so it's nice and secure. So I'm probably going to get a separate fabric for that, just so I'm not using up this nice green. So thanks for sticking with me. I know this was only an instant for you, but it's been a year since I've touched this for myself. So let's keep going on this and finish it this time. After trying on the muslin again, everything looked really good, so I just followed all my same markings that I did before, just taking in the sides a little bit, and then I was ready to start cutting all the pattern pieces out. To make the internal corset pieces, I'm using some thicker green fabric that I already had in my stash, and all the same pattern pieces. I'm just stopping it around my waist. I'm going to cut out 4 pieces of each pattern piece, that way I can make 2 of the corset pieces, and then I can create the boning channels that the boning will actually go into. Once both corset pieces were made, I sewed them together along the top, and then I just carefully sketched out where the boning channels are going to go using a ruler that is just slightly wider than the boning that I used. Once the boning channels were sewn, I then measured out how much boning I needed for each channel and inserted that into the corset. Once the corset was complete, I then attached it to the actual body of the dress, much like you would attach a lining right along the top of the dress. Now that the base of the dress is complete, I'm going to move on to preparing everything to make the bubble hem. Now I am making my dress a little bit different than the original inspo. That dress has rouging all over the dress. I'm just going to be doing the bubble hem and keeping the bodice very simple and clean. So to start, I am going to cut out a bunch of strips of 6-inch wide fabric. This is what I'm going to use to create the bubble that's going to go along the whole bottom of the hem. Okay, so I have my dress, my base dress, and then I have this long strip of fabric that I cut out. So this is going to be the little bubble that goes around the whole hem. So I am going to hand pleat this, which I might end up regretting this, but I was going to do basting stitches and gather both sides. Honestly, I think it will really be easier and potentially even faster to just do it all by hand, and I would like it to look pleated instead of gathered, which I think is just a different kind of look, and I think will look better and more like the original. So I'm going to start pinning this on and then just doing this by hand. I don't really know what I'm doing. Well, I mean, I know what I'm doing, but I've not done it to this degree or scale before, so we're going to be kind of figuring this out together, and then once that is sewn on, I'm going to sew it to the underside and then flip it up, and then I will sew it, and that will give us the bubble all the way around. So I have like some stuffing that I can put in there. To pleat the bottom piece, I started by attaching that very long strip of fabric to the hem of the dress in a couple of different spots just to make sure that the fabric was evenly distributed, and then I went in and hand folded all the fabric to pleat it onto the bottom of the hem. To finish the bubble, I started by laying down some stuffing that I had left over from a different project and then folded that piece of fabric over, pinning it in place. Then once the entire bubble was pinned, I then went in and tried to stitch it as invisibly as possible into place. So that is what I made for Poppy's Emmy's look. I know the dress is a little bit different than the original design. This is a Halloween costume. I didn't want to spend a ton of time doing all that ruching. It is very beautiful, and I think that if I had taken the time to do it, this would be a dress that I could wear lots and lots of times. I still will wear this one. It's just not as over the top as the original. I will say, I wish that I would have purchased different fabric for the internal corset. I didn't want to buy anything, so I used fabric that I already had, but it's like a very strange canvas material that I don't think is meant to be used to make garments. So the top doesn't lay down the way that I want it to. That's something I can fix later though. It's fine for right now. Also, I don't know why I did this, but when I originally pinned the pattern, when I was fixing the muslin a year ago, I had pinned it to take in these two seams right at the top. For some reason, when I was redoing the pattern this time around, I tried it on and I decided to take those out and keep it as is. I do wish that I had taken in those seams because the top ended up being too big. And later on, I did go out in this dress. So I put safety pins just to bring this in. So that's something that I think can be a pretty quick fix so that I can actually wear this dress again in the future. But really loved this. It was so fun and very, very different than what I normally do. And the makeup was so over the top. Yeah, just a really, really fun experience to transform myself so much. I already had respect for drag queens, but I have so much more respect for drag queens that do this type of stuff on a regular basis because let me tell you, my hairline was hurting, my hair was hurting, my face, it was just like, it was a lot. So that was fun to do, maybe a couple times a year, not something I want to do on a regular basis. So kudos to y'all if you're out there doing this on a regular basis where you're painting yourself and doing bald caps and all this stuff. So really, really fun. I would love to know what y'all think about this. If you have questions about how I made the dress itself, questions about the pattern making process, any of that stuff, I'm happy to answer it. And I will see y'all on the next one. Happy Halloween!